Good evening and welcome to week 7. Can you believe it? We're already to week 7. I do want to say the lesson plans I've graded so far, the writing lesson plans, were great. I can tell those who are watching the videos and reading the news forums, you were right on target, and hopefully they're becoming a little bit easier to write. This week we're going to write a technology lesson plan. So, in the technology lesson plan, the students must create something to show what they've learned. So, this would be the 5th day that they've been involved with the text, so they should know it pretty well. They've written about it, they've read about it, they've learned skills throughout it. So, this is kind of like accumulating activity. So, the technology lesson plan. So, what I would do is I would go back up to the standards, select the reading standards. Remember, your social studies standard will stay the same. But if you go all the way to the bottom to the speaking and listening, if you go all the way down here to, it could be maybe this one. This one here, include multimedia component, graphics and sound, and visual displays and presentations when appropriate to enhance the development of main ideas or themes. So this one might be one where they could use or create a PowerPoint. It could be a Prezi, it could be emails. There's lots of things that students can do. But if you're thinking about a PowerPoint, PowerPoints are fine, but as my 5th graders told me this past week, PowerPoints are old news. So you might introduce them to the Prezi, because a lot of you did the Prezi. Some of you even did the emails. So try to introduce the students to something new. So that would be a great standard to use for this one. So let's go back to the lesson plan. Let's see how that would be laid out. Let me just find a blank lesson plan here. So let's look at the lesson plan. So remember, every part of the lesson plan has to be centered on the standard. So this would be where you would teach them how to use technology. So the purpose has to be about technology. You're going to introduce the students to whatever program they're going to be creating. You need to write the objective like Warner expects. That's one area we're still having a little bit of trouble with. We did practice it in week 2. So if you need a refresher on how it needs to be written, go back to your measurable verbs assignment in week 2. The assessments, you need a formative and a summative. So with this being a technology lesson plan, a formative would be them creating the plan for what they're going to do in the technology. Maybe they need to talk about the order in which they're going to put their information together. So the formative is while they are creating the technology piece, the summative would be the final project. The assessment, this also needs to have a rubric. So just like the writing lesson plan, the technology needs a rubric. So there are many rubrics online. All you have to do is Google rubrics for Prezis or rubrics for emails or whatever you're choosing to make. There's lots of rubrics out there. Accommodations have to be geared towards technology. Don't make them so general. Vocabulary words, you're going to copy and paste these from the other lesson plans. Introduction is going to be where, maybe you're going to show them a video of how a Prezi, I'm just going to use Prezi for an example. So here you might introduce them, show them what a Prezi is, and then talk about the rubric that they're going to do. And then in the practicing, this is going to be where they're organizing their information. Remember, it still has to be based on the 5th grade text that we've been using for the previous 4 lesson plans. So in the practicing section, this is where they're going to have to work independently, because this is a big project. It cannot be a group project because you need to know what they know about the topic. So they need to work independently. They need to have the rubric with them, create on paper or through a graphic organizer or something to how they're going to plan out. The generating might be where they're actually creating it and putting it together. They could also, again, peer edit each other's using the rubric. The closure is going to be where they need to present what they've created to the rest of the class. But make sure, again, that the rubric is present in all sections. Introduce the rubric because it's going to show what is expected. They need to have the rubric to make sure that they are including everything that needs to be done. Again, they need the rubric while they're actually on the computer creating the product. And here, they need the rubric. You could even have students after or when they're presenting use the rubric to help score each other's. So this one can be an easy one. You just have to break it down into sections of showing them, modeling, show them how to create, the Prezi, if that's what you're using. Give them time to work on their own. Give them a plan as to how that needs to be put together. They create the project. Closure would be where they would present it. So this one's really pretty easy, and this is one where they will really surprise you about how creative they can be. Because sometimes we think we're really creative when we put these kind of things together, but they will be even more creative. And they will appreciate being allowed to use the computers. I know not every school is going to have a computer for every student, but this is our pretend class, and we're going to pretend that everybody has access to a computer or an iPad or whatever you're choosing. So when we go back to the week, we scroll down here, I have given you some different options that you could look into. The Glogster is something that's great. The Storyboard that, Big Huge Labs, there's all sorts of great projects that they can do on the computer to show what they've learned. So that would be week 7. I still want to go back to week 8, talk about week 8. Remember, week 8 is a FEEPS unit. It is the 5 lesson plans corrected and a unit assessment attached. So you have to do the 5 lesson plans. So when the title says unit FEEP, you do not, let me repeat, you do not need to go back to the unit plan and include any parts of it. I do not want that. All you're doing is you're correcting the 5 lesson plans according to the comments that have been made on the rubrics, which are posted in the Moodle site where you drop your lesson plans. Correct those. Create a unit test, and that is all that's due week 8. So if you are going back and correcting them now, it will save you a lot of time in week 8. Because, again, if you notice, week 8, they are due on Wednesday, because it does take me some amount of time to score all of them, because I have to go back through each lesson plan. I have to go back through the comments that were made for each lesson plan to correct them. So I have to have them on Wednesday so that by the next Wednesday I can have your final grades, because that's when I have to post your final grades, is the Wednesday after the course ends. So I cannot accept assignments after the end of the course. So October 20th, you can still submit it on October 20th. I will take points off for being late, because it stated very clearly I need them by Wednesday of that week. So I would go ahead, and when you finish your technology lesson plan, go ahead and start correcting your other lesson plans and creating that unit test. The unit test will not be on the skills that you were teaching. The unit test should be on the content of the text. So this is where you're going to create the final test on the branches of the government and all of those things that are in this 5th grade text that we're using. So that about wraps it up for week 7. But like I said, lesson plans are getting much easier to grade because you're doing such a great job. Make sure you are teaching the standard in every section of the lesson plans. So have a great rest of the weekend, and please let me know if you have any questions. Talk to you soon.